right, let's talk about the data that we want to collect here. So first of all, before I begin collecting data, I just want to point out to you, there's 6 pieces of data that I want to have a report for in the project. We want in-state tuition, out-of-state tuition, average dollar amount received per student, the proportion of students who receive aid, the size of enrollment, and then the overall graduation rate. So first I'm going to bring up my Excel file where I have my 25 colleges here. And what I would really like is a heading up here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to come over here, I'm going to right click, and I'm going to say insert, and it's going to insert a row above. And then I'm just going to put the title of each category that I want. So I want in-state, and then I want out of state, and so on. Let me click there. Out of state. Why isn't it typing for me? Sometimes I have to click in the cell. Alright, so just pause the video real quick so you didn't have to watch me type. I've put in the 6 categories that we want to collect. Now before we move on, one thing I like is for my page to just look nice and organized. And notice how, like this row and this row seem to have the same height, but then these are bigger. So I'm just going to go ahead and adjust the height of each row so they look consistent. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight the first row, and then I'm going to scroll down, and I'm going to hold the shift key and highlight the bottom row. So it highlights all of them. And then I'm going to right click, and I'm going to choose row height, and then I'm going to adjust the row height here. I'm not sure what number is going to work good. I think these are in inches. So I'm going to do 1 inch and click OK. And that didn't work. Okay, so I'm going to choose row height, and I'm going to choose 2 inches, and that didn't work either. Oh, you know what it's doing? Look, check it out. It's really tiny, tiny, tiny. Okay, so I think what that is that's pixels. So let's do like 30 pixels. There we go. Look at that, much better. Okay, so that looks a lot nicer and cleaner now that I could actually see them, choosing the number of pixels. And then, for each column, I'll probably adjust these as they go, but you can grab, click, and open up a particular column, or I could click and then hold shift and click, and I could do column width, and I could choose a particular column width as well. What if I do 20 pixels, something like that, right? So to make it look cleaner, that's one option I could do. Now, let me go then and let's look at the data. So I'm at the college website, and just as an example, I came up here in the top left and I typed University of Central Florida. I hit enter, and here is the University of Florida. Let me click on that. And then this is very interesting. I mean, if you've chosen colleges of which you are interested in attending, there's tons of data and information here for you to explore to see, what the college is all about in terms of production and other things of that nature. Now, you can notice right here at the top is just some basic general information about the college, their website, what type of university they are, whether they're, public or private, what degrees they offer, so on and so forth. Now, in regards to our particular project, we're looking first of all for in-state tuition. So what I'm going to do is just work all the way across my row. So for University of Central Florida, I'm going to find in-state, out-of-state, so on and so forth. So for every college that you look up, right, I'm going to find tuition under the second line here, tuition and fees. And what I want to do in particular is look at the most recent year, and I want in-state and out of state. Now, I want you to notice that they also tell you what it costs to live on campus, estimate cost to live off campus, what the total expenses would be, and this is, this is including the off campus or on campus living with in-state, out-of-state tuition per year. All I want is the tuition. So I'm going to come back up here. Here's in-state tuition, and I'm going to pick this last guy right here, the most recent year, and then here's the out-of-state. Now, what I want to caution you don't copy and paste. If I highlight this and copy and paste to Excel, notice what it's going to do is it's going to actually put it in a weird format. Now if I look up here, it formatted it as a currency. Sometimes when you copy and paste, it'll format it as text. Sometimes it'll come in as like unknown or general. What you really want is number. So for all of this data, we want a number. So if you copy and paste, just switch it to a number. That would be the safest thing. Or type it in, right? I mean, look at the number 6368, right? And then type that in my Excel page, right? Just keep in mind our formatting for all of these we want to be number. So if I come back here, I want out of state. So 22467. So I'll come back to my Excel file, copy, paste, and notice it assumed I wanted the same formatting as prior. So that was kind of cool. It put it in that way for me. So there's 2 of my 6 categories. The next one I want is average financial aid. Alright, so let me click the little minus sign. Let's close the tuition tab and let's open up financial aid right below that. Now lots of information provided for me about each college or university in regards to financial aid. You'll notice this first heading here is undergraduate student financial aid, and this is the most recent year that has been reported. And then we have full-time beginning undergraduate students. So this information down here is only for beginning students. What I want is overall all undergraduate students. So I'm going to scroll down a little further. Here's all undergraduate students that I want. Now, a couple pieces of information they give me. They tell me about grants and aid, right? So this is basically things that aren't loans, and then here's loans. And what I'm looking for the project is no loan information. We just want grants and scholarships. So if I move along this line here, see a couple pieces of information. There's the number receiving aid. There's a percentage of the total enrollment receiving aid, which we want this. I'll come back to that in a second. Here's the total amount of aid received for all students. And then here's the average per student. So these are the 2 things that I want. If we look at my category, I want the average dollar amount per student, right? Grants and scholarships, no loans. And then I want the proportion that receive aid. Again, grants and scholarships. So for UCF, what I want is the 5126 and the 62%. So I want the 5126 is the average amount of aid received. And then I've already forgot my percentage, 62%. So remember, what we're always going to do for our percentage is write it as a decimal. So I'm going to say 0.62 as my decimal. Again, I want to make sure, notice the format is general up here. I want to make sure that those are both numbers. And I also want to point out to you real quick, now that we're on the subject, if I right click this cell and I choose format, there's a whole bunch of things I can change about this cell. I'm going to click number here. I can choose number, general, whatever, and I can tell it how many decimal places I want, and we will use that in a little while. Now the last 2 pieces of data I want are enrollment and graduation. So let's see where we would find that. So you can see enrollment has its own tab. So let me open the enrollment tab. And again, there's a lot of data reported for each college and university. If we take a look at this real quick, we can see we get right at the top the most recent data reported. And then we get total enrollment. So we have undergraduate enrollment, we have transfer enrollment, and then we have graduate enrollment, and then we have a total enrollment in that case. Now I can also look at the undergraduates separated by full-time and part-time, separated by gender. We can even look at further further types of graphs where we break different stratifications of our data. We could look at race, ethnicity, age, residence, whether they live on or off campus, and other pieces of data. Now, if we look back at the instructions, what I want is undergraduate students, right? And I want the raw count. So what I want just here is the undergraduate enrollment. So for UCF, that's 56853. So I'm going to copy and paste that into my Excel page. And again, oh, look at that. It changed it to a number for me, so I am happy. And then I want the graduation rate. So again, if I come back to my instructions, I want overall graduation rate. So let's see where we would find that. Let me close enrollment. I'm going to come down here to retention and graduation. Now, for just a moment to explain to you the tons of data they're showing me here is retention is basically how many students did I not lose, how many did I retain. So for a university, that basically means students that didn't withdraw in essence. So from, let's say, fall of 2016, you can see right here, fall of 2016 to fall of 2017, how many students that began in fall 2016 re-enrolled in fall of 2017, and that's what we would call retention. That could be an indicator of, quality of the university, quality of the instructors, resources provided, right? If you have a university that has a really low retention rate, it could be a bad signal. Anyway, that is not what we're looking for here. What I want is the overall graduation rate. And you can see here's the overall graduation rate. This is what I'm looking for, but you could look and dig a little bit deeper. We can see graduation rates based on some cohorts. We can see based on gender, ethnicity, race, so on and so forth. But I'm wanting the overall graduation rate. So for UCF, that's 70%. So I'm going to come back to my Excel file and I'm going to type 0.7. And I just want to make sure that that is a number. And there we go. So for that university, I have the 6 pieces of data. And what I want to do now is repeat that process. So I'm going to come back. I'm going to take a look at my next university. So in the upper left corner here, I'm going to type that university's name and then go through and find the 6 pieces of data that I want for that university. And once I am done with that process, right, what I'm going to do is save the file. You can see in the instructions here that it says data underscore last name underscore first name. So I'm going to go back to my Excel file and I'm going to do File, Save As, and I'm going to pick my Documents folder and I'm going to do, it was data underscore last name underscore first name, and then I'm going to click save, and that is the file that I will upload to submit once I have all of the data listed there.